right, everybody, happy Sunday. Today we're going to go into something pretty easy. So I shared with you guys the top 15 companies that paid me dividends. Today's video is just going to be strictly about how much I got paid in 2022 and approximately how much I'm estimating for 2023. And we're going to go into a little bit about analytics, month over month, year over year sort of stuff, which would be cool or not cool. But I hope you guys enjoy. This has been something I've been doing for about 10 years or so. So it should be cool to be actually able to go ahead and get after it. So let's just hop into it, get a little OBS inception here. But let's actually hop over into the data here. So this is where I keep a lot of my data. So let me just get this bad boy so that way you can get the full screen picture here. But I went through this basically. Like I shrunk down this table here that you're seeing for 2022. And it's not all filled out, right? Because I have options income and stuff in here and YouTube income that I get paid. And I used to have a Shopify store. But what you can see is this dividend section here, which is filled out from basically what we talked about over the past two videos, right? I basically took this long table, shrunk it down to 15 columns or so, and showed you guys which ones are the most valuable. And it's kind of really a simple video, right? Like you just take everything. I mean, I averaged about, I guess $2,000 a month. Some months were $2,700. Some months were less than $1,000. Some months, I think it started to really flatten out because I got into some of the more of like the Jeppies and Devos of the world rather than individual stocks. So it was really nice to kind of start seeing that even out a little bit. But it's really cool, man. It started off in 2,700 for the month of January. And at one point in March, we had over 3,400, which was pretty cool. So yeah, that was interesting, to say the least. And I guess if you want to include the YouTube income in here, we had about $2,400 worth of YouTube income, but I don't make nearly as many videos as I used to. And I didn't really keep track of how much, affiliate or channel income from sponsorships and stuff like that this year. Maybe I'll go back and do it, but maybe when it comes to tax season, I'll go back and do that. But a lot of that comes from, just $50 here, $100 there, right? I mean, we're not talking $1,000 dividend payments that are coming from individual companies. You guys saw that in the top 15. So, nothing too crazy with that. And I guess just we want to look at the actual analysis, like how we're looking year over year in terms of growth. 2021, I started January off at like $1,800 at 1,000, then 3,200. And I think March and September are always rather big because I have a position at BHP and they pay pretty off cycle, and that's a pretty good hefty dividend. So, but you can see last year I made about 21,000. This year I only made about 24. And I was at one point on track for like 28, 29,000. And that's when I kind of started to realize, like, am I going down this big rabbit hole? And I already kind of realized that starting into like 2020, because you can see this number slowed down really quick. And this is only past like 3-4 years of data. I have data that goes all the way back to 2012, 2013, where I started at basically zero. Actually, you might be able to see a little bit of it over time, but this is kind of the monthly data that's kind of coming in here. And you can see it kind of like, obviously some months are bigger than others, but you can see overall the funnel itself is going up and to the right. So, which is pretty cool. But I have the monthly data going all the way back, and you can kind of track it throughout here, dividends by month for 2019, 20, 2021. You can see the same for the year-over-year growth. And, I really slowed it down. I was kind of forecasting getting anywhere between 40 to 50% growth year over year for the next few years, and then slow it down to like 30% growth. And you have to think, when the portfolio gets to as large as mine is, use your imagination, 6 figures plus. It's hard to be able to grow your dividend income 50% unless you're completely selling out of something and investing in it that pays 50% more dividends, or you're adding 50% more capital to the portfolio. I kind of did the opposite. I continued to add capital to the portfolio, but I also pulled back a good bit on specifically focusing on the dividend income. And I focused more on, hey, Matt, like, let's just be blunt. You're making 24 grand a year in dividends. You got some other stuff that you got coming in the pipeline. You got Airbnbs and stuff out there now that, I have to bring to the channel. You have affiliate income, you got YouTube money, you have these other things that are making money. If unfortunately you needed to rely on it, you could sell that portion of the portfolio that's in, say, growth stocks or the S&P 500 and focus it on the 4 or 5% dividend yielders and get that income up. I really don't need that much money. You know what I mean? Like I might need like $4 or $5 grand a month to live. And that's, if I'm really just living, leisurely. If I wanted to pull it back, I'd need 2,000 to 3,000 a month. So I'm kind of at where I need to be. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying I'm retired or anything like that, but if I truly needed to switch it over, I could go ahead and do that. And so you kind of saw a step change in the portfolio, we had 50% growth from 2019 to 2020. 55% growth from 2020 to 2021. So great progress there. And to see only 13%, it's kind of like, a shot in the heart. But at the same time, it's me making a conscious decision that if I truly wanted to get somewhere where I could have a true step change in my investments and true step change in what I'm doing, I really need to focus on investing different, right? Not to say that what I was doing and the path I was going down is bad, but at the same time, it's like, okay, cool. I get to $50,000 a year in dividends, $100,000 a year in dividends. It's like, that's awesome. But it's like, is that really going to step change my lifestyle? Right? Like I need to get somewhere or a place where I could truly step change that lifestyle. And that would require me investing in something that's going to give me a lot more growth over the long term, somewhere where I could get $300,000, $400,000 a year in dividend income. But in the meantime, I'm kind of stuck in this. So I kind of had to change. It was nice if I wanted to kind of level off at, say, the $75,000, $100,000 a year in dividend income. But I needed to think bigger, right? Like, I don't want to say 10x because that's Grant Cardone's thing, but I needed to think a little bit more out of the box. And you always get, when you get to these little milestones, you start thinking about what's the next step, right? And to me, that was starting to realize, yes, I could continue down this path, grind another 10 years, probably get to the $50,000, $60,000 a year in dividend income. Or if I really wanted to, force the dividend income subject and get to $100,000 in the next 5 to 10 years. That's not hard, right? I could continue to just invest how much capital I always have invested, 30 to 40, sometimes 50% of my income, depending on what year it is, and get there in a couple years. But to me, I was just like, you know what? Like, if I need it, I can turn it on. In the meantime, I'm going to be about $21,000 next year in 2023. A lot of that had to do with selling out of great companies like Altria Group and Exxon. And yes, those companies are great, right? If you're focusing on dividend income and you're in your late 50s, early 60s, and you need that sort of stuff for income, I hear you, man. But I'm 31, right? I'm about to turn 32. I still have a lot of time left. There's a lot of other things I'd rather do with that money. So I put a lot of it in the S&P 500. I put a lot of it in something that's a little bit more long-term invested, which is in the S&P 500. Sometimes do a little bit more speculative positions like Rocket Lab and Palantir. But I would say the majority of it is invested in those lower sleep well at night sort of stocks rather than those higher income dividend stocks. And the reason being is simple, man. Like, I'm not talking down on Exxon. I'm not talking about down on Altria Group. I think they're great investments for the right people. So by no means am I saying don't invest in those companies. But to me, I'm still so young that I'm looking for things that could 3x, 4x over the course of 10, 20 years. And I just don't think Exxon and Altria Group are those companies. I think Altria Group could get back to the $70s, $80 a share. So I could see it potentially, doubling from where it's at. But I don't think it's ever going to be a $300 billion, $400 billion company unless the dollar value goes to crap. And then that's a different story. I also don't see Exxon being a $1 trillion company. I just don't see it happening. So it just takes a lot of continuous capital contributions. And I don't want to say they're old, mature businesses, but they are slightly old, mature. And they're not as innovative. And I don't think the operating margins are there for those businesses. So, plus the regulatory environments for both the oil and gas industry as well as the tobacco industry. I just think it's going to be very tough. So, I just took a quick look back and I was like, you know what? There's going to be some investments in some companies that come out of nowhere in the S&P 500 that I just didn't know anything about. Like, there's so many companies out there. The Russell 2000 is 2,000 small cap companies to micro cap companies. The VTIs of the world, or ITOTs of the world are 3,500 companies, 3,600 U.S. companies that you can invest in. We're not even talking about global indices where there could be thousands more. So you start to think, it's like, you know what? Let's take my hand off. I'm just going to stop trying to focus on these great companies and try to optimize the portfolio when in reality the S&P 500 could optimize a lot of that for me. And I'm going to focus on where I know how to make money best, which is, trying to make a $2,000 deal here, a $3,000 deal here, hustle at work, try to get a promotion, those sorts of things. And in the long term, that's just where I'm at right now. I'm 31, 32. The portfolio matures just as I do. That's a very different portfolio than when I started. I was focusing on wholly just on dividend income. Shit, I had Altria Group since like 2014. To get rid of that, 8 years later, it kind of hurts. But at the same time, I'm, hopefully going to be justified in my conviction in several years that I made the right decision to focus more on the S&P and kind of let things go. And not to say that Altria Group was a bad investment. I made money in the long term, but I would have made more money, and I've probably lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars of investments by not investing in the S&P 500 wholly. And that's just a live and learn sort of situation. That's opportunity cost that you learn with time. And I just hope that people hear this story a little bit and think about it a little bit as well. If investing in dividends is wholly the right thing for them. And I have this conversation with Darth all the time. He's so focused on these REITs and stuff of the like. And I think he's truly going to underperform the market. And that's okay if he's aware of that. At one point, I was okay with that, knowing that I wanted to get the dividend income up. I work in a very volatile industry, so I was always thinking I could lose my job at any moment, which is still true. But I've got to the place now where I have enough of a principal portfolio that I could switch that into something, investing in more dividends if I need it to be. Right now, I don't. Right now, I have a great income. Right now, I have other income, side hustles, and stuff like that I'm working on that are going to continue to bring, a couple $100, $1,000 in every month. So that's where I'm going to focus and use that money to invest back into a very simple portfolio, mostly the S&P 500. But I do focus on, high growth companies. Amazon, I think, is going to be a great one for 23, 24, 25. Google, the same. I think they're great buying ranges right here. And I think that, the next couple months is going to be very volatile still. So I think Amazon's going to go back below $90. I think if you don't have any, and you have a very 10-year line focus, and you don't mind it not paying a dividend right now, I think it'd be a great opportunity. But of course, do your own due diligence. But anyway, I don't want this one to turn into a 20-minute video like the other two. I really hope this one helps you guys and hopes it gives you an insight of where I think I'm headed. I think we're going to see a little bit of anemic growth next year in terms of dividends overall. $24,000 this year, not including options and stuff like that, or YouTube income or anything like that, or affiliate income. But I think we're probably going to end up around the same. It's at 22,000 right now for 2023 is the estimate, but I'll probably continue to invest. And if things go really, really well, I could see myself kind of hanging out that 24,000 and slowly getting back to the point where every capital I invest eventually gets me to a couple $1,000s additional every year, because I'll be investing mostly in the S&P. So hope this finds you well, and hope you guys love it and get a little bit out of it. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Cheers.